The Warriors, the 1979 film left a lasting mark in cinemas around the country. The film is even allegedly linked to a brief rise in crime rates around the nation, mostly associated with vandalism or other teen-related crimes. The 1970s in the United States were a time of dramatic change. The U.S. economy was heading into a recession, and urban decay had begun to take its toll on the inner city. Cities like New York experienced considerable increases in crime rates all across the board. New York City in the 1970s looked nothing like the way it does now. Sanitation services fell far behind, and trash in parts of the city built up in the streets. The flight of Americans to suburbs caused considerable funding problems, leading to the inner cities looking more like dystopian cityscapes, with a lot of porno theaters, than something you would expect from a grandiose American city today. The considerable decline in New York's prestige and all-around hygiene caused the popular culture of the day to show the city in full decline. What established the idea of a failing New York was the 1977 blackouts and the resulting riots. The blackouts in New York was an event that put the city into a chaotic evening of looting that the likes of which have yet to be seen since. Over the course of 12 hours in New York City, over 1,600 stores were robbed and looted, along with several hundred rounds of ammunition being expended by the NYPD, culminating in over 1,000 arrests. Strangely, despite the massive amount of property damage, there were next to no deaths reported as a result of the riots and looting. Also, no fatalities reported as a result of the NYPD's use of firearms. Films like 1981's Escape from New York showed the city being made into a triple max prison because of an uncontrollable crime problem that was actually inspired by the rising crime rates within the United States. The Warriors draws a lot of its atmosphere from that same concept of an uncontrollable crime problem that's spiraling out of control. The idea of New York youth spiraling out of control is not a new concept of filmmaking. 1955's Chalkboard Jungle actually demonstrated the same concepts of when youth are underrated and considered the problem. However, in Chalkboard Jungle, it's the prior generation that fixes the problem. And in The Warriors, the youth have to take care of the problem themselves, leading them on a gigantic quest back to Coney Island from the inner city. The Warriors is a film that's actually based off of a book written in 1965. However, the film takes a lot of its inspiration and atmosphere from comic books. The director actually wanted to have that effect in the film. However, he was forced to abandon that due to events outside of his control. Most notably several murders that occurred near the site in the Bronx when they were shooting the film, and also the fact that while they were shooting in the Bronx, bricks were being thrown at their production teams. Remnants of the comic book atmosphere, though, did remain in the film, with the over-the-top outfits of different gangs, and also in a later re-release of the film on Blu-ray, where the director was actually able to add different comic book intro panels that also linked the story back to the original Greek tale that the story is somewhat of an allegory of. What surprises me most about the film is that The Warriors holds a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, which makes it one of the better reviewed films on the site. That also makes me wonder if everyone else watched the film The Warriors when they were 12 and then just never watched it again. I'd explain the really high review for the film. Not to say The Warriors isn't a unique and entertaining film in its own right. However, the film lacks a number of areas, like really solid acting, to merit such a good rating on Rotten Tomatoes. The film enjoys cult status that gives it a bit of a pass in those areas. The window it gives on exaggerated gang culture in New York is pretty fun to watch. The video game released in 2005 based on the film is a great homage to the original. The intro for the game is almost a shot-for-shot remake of the film. The game even has a number of original voice actors who come back to the game. Unlike the film, however, the game doesn't start with the journey to the large gang meeting with Cyrus. It starts like a prequel to the film. The game starts with you taking in the role of Rembrandt, the gang's primary tag artist. When you start, you play as Rembrandt as you're being initiated into the gang by fighting random homeless people who have been paid with booze to fight you. The game has a dark noir feel that matches that of the film. Honestly, the game is something only Rockstar could produce due to the basically edgy and violent subject matter. The game atmosphere fits along with the films extremely well. The general feeling is spot on. The darkened alleys and the running and jumping and breaking through fences is right out of the film. The game itself is a solid brawler with mechanics kind of added in, like breaking into cars, stealing radios, and an added bonus of robbing people at random. What is most impressive about the game is that it really makes you feel like you're in the film. It does a really good job of doing subtle nuances to the movie, the neon colorings, the comic book kind of paneling. It does a really good job of tying it into the film. The fighting mechanics are well done as well. The different level of things you can do is actually rather impressive for a game that's built on a rather simple brawler concept. and the idea that you can actually randomly do coke to boost your fighting prowess is actually pretty funny. If you enjoy late 70s films, you'll probably enjoy the Warriors game, given that they have that kind of gritty environment, and especially if it's a film like you like the films based out of New York from the 70s. The game does a really good job of portraying that environment the way it was kind of perceived from the time. But long story short, the game is definitely worth checking out. And it's also worth your time if you want to play it. So thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day or evening.